Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar, Accelerating Sales with Altify Sales Process, a live showcase. And my name is Tim Wolf, Director of Product Marketing with Upland Altify, and I'm joined by our Director of Solutions Consulting, Matt Weisberg. Before we begin, the session is being recorded and the link to the recording will be available after the webinar. We do want to hear your questions, so please enter them into the questions panel in the webinar platform, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. So let's get started. There are two key challenges we see sales organizations face today: longer sales cycles and deal slippage. Both are killers for your forecast. When digging deeper, these companies don't have a structured sales process in place. There may be a sales methodology underlining the how to sell as a skill set, but it may not have the process steps locked in for sellers to follow to drive repeatability. In some cases, their sales process is not automated. It's in a PDF or some other disconnected form that's not a part of the technology that salespeople use every day. And lastly, the sales process stages and activities are misaligned to the buyer's purchasing journey. What we've seen is less than half of sales leaders have high confidence in their forecast accuracy. And we've seen that having a defined and adhered to sales process really does matter. Companies with such a sales process are 3 times more likely to increase revenue and outperform their peers. Simply put, the path to predictable sales and to accelerate your sales velocity is by automating your sales process and aligning it to the way your prospects and customers buy. This will deliver greater pipeline visibility and enable your sales team to win with shorter cycle times. Our solution, Altify Sales Process, does this in 2 parts. 1, your sales process is automated in Salesforce with guidance and resources built in. And 2, it provides better visibility into your team's pipeline. We call this capability Team View, and it's a place where sales leaders can visually see where deals are getting stuck so they can take action, provide coaching, and help their sellers close deals faster. With Altify Sales Process, you get the expertise of the Altify consulting team to help you align your sales process to different buying cycles, the ability to set up multiple sales processes simultaneously. That could be by selling motion, geo, industry, deal size, or anywhere you want different set of process steps. You gain greater visibility to monitor deal risk and to see where the bottlenecks are, and improved sales effectiveness through shorter sales cycles, less deal slippage, and greater productivity. So why does Altify Sales Process stand apart in the market today? Altify supports a number of different sales processes. This could be from simple to complex to ensure your entire revenue team is covered. We have unmatched sales strategy expertise, and our consultants are available to help your team create optimized processes that are unique for your selling motions. And with Altify, you have a future-proof growth plan to help you meet your overall sales transformation goals. And of course, Altify is 100% native, securely keeping all your data inside of Salesforce. Now, I've said a lot, so I'd like to move this over to Matt to take it from here. And then Matt, I will turn the floor over to you.
All right. So thanks again and welcome. So as Tim had already alluded to, we have a very simple manner in which Altify can help your sellers and your sales management and sales leadership to bring all of the most important pieces of your sales process and your sales enablement together in one place. Now, normally, if I'm a seller, and today I'll be acting as such, I will walk into my book and it will look something like this. Now, it's important to note that in my particular case today, I'm a bit of a new seller, and I work for a company that sells a lot of solutions. And so perhaps that could make things difficult as a new seller. There's a lot of nuance there, as Tim already alluded to. Sales processes can be different and nuanced as they change depending on what we're selling, who we're selling to, etc. And so luckily, I've walked into an organization that has already invested in Salesforce, in Altify. And Altify's in Salesforce, so just to reiterate that. Altify, as Tim already did state, has something called TeamView. And this is a fantastic interface for both sales leadership and sellers themselves. And so this is oftentimes where I like to start my day as a seller. Okay. So as you can see here, this is a great place to start my day because I'm actually looking at my book of business. Now, being a newer seller, I only have 5 opportunities at this time, and those opportunities have been handed off to me from other sellers in this particular case. Now, that can make things worse in some cases because, well, there might be a lack of context. Notes might be a bit difficult to find, and understanding where we are in each deal and why can be challenging. So this is the first bit of luck I've run into now as a newer seller with opportunities that have been handed over to me. I can see all my opportunities at scale here, zoomed out, and I can see indicators off the bat that are going to help guide me to understand what is my next high impact action and why. Now we can see here that you can prioritize your opportunities by multiple factors, perhaps percent chance to close or close date, maybe the amount that it's worth. These could all be useful. But I can see that we also have clear indicators from my management that this is a key deal, quite a large one at that this requires attention. And there's a big red bubble here to call my attention to that I should probably take heed of. In every case, as a seller and as a sales manager, when looking at a book of opportunities like this, if I can see indicators like this that are both operational and collaborative, but also clear and upfront to tell me when something's going wrong in an opportunity, and that when I click this, it'll be leading me directly to that opportunity, that is really what I need. So I go ahead and click on that and end up on this page. This is our opportunity. That very opportunity there in the requirement stage of the opportunity. And for most organizations, this is what we see, again, when we log into an org. So whereas we have a very useful interface here with a lot of great information, matching what we just saw, 60% probability to close, estimated close date, September 30th, for a very large amount, and we're in this stage. And as a newer seller coming into this opportunity, I'm not exactly up to date on what's going on here or what to do. So again, luckily, I've stumbled into an organization who's invested in Altify Sales Process Manager. So when I click to this tab here, I'm able to see quite a bit more. Now you can see where that big red bubble came from, and you can see all of the same path stages that you see here, these opportunity stages, represented in the Altify interface, which is right in line with the rest of the opportunity in context. A couple things to notice before we actually dig into what I'm going to discover here. You can see a different percent chance to close up here. Off the bat, that might throw you. You can also see a different projected close date here. Now, this is not meant to be an alternative source of truth. It's meant to be more of a check, if you will, a projection, of course, to help our sellers and our sales leadership, because these the delta here will be visible to our sales leadership quite clearly, and to make sure that we are able to keep our sales velocity up by matching what is the expectation set by our own CRM data. Right? Now, there's more indicators here that we can dig into, but I think the most important before I do move on is this one here. Right? This is our sales process. It says Enterprise Now. Now, I can switch this out manually to a different, perhaps more suitable process. But as a new seller, I'm really happy that there's an automated capability here that has chosen this process for me based on this opportunity, based on the account that it's with, the industry of that account, the opportunity and the products that we're selling in this opportunity, etc. And in fact, you can have practically unlimited different processes, as Tim alluded to already, that can be assigned depending on the situation. And that's exactly what we have here. I lucked out again. So as I do try to go catch up in this deal, I can see that we're not just looking at stages here. We're not looking at notes or attachments. We're looking at specific actions or calls to action in every single stage. So if I scroll down here, you can see as I've unfurled this stage, I have specific calls to action on each and every section of this stage. So I know, and my sales enablement team knows, and my marketing team knows, and my sales leadership team knows, that me as a newer seller who's not super familiar with this deal will have everything I need to understand how we got to where we are, why we're here, and perhaps what to do next. And they will do everything they can to help me understand that. So you see the notes here in mine from the last seller who was managing this opportunity, or from perhaps somebody on my opportunity team working with me. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead and go to where the problem exists today. We saw the big red bubble in the evidence stage. but we are not yet in that stage. We're on the requirement stage, and you can see these green check marks to indicate, based on these calls to action and the completeness percentage of them, we're 61% of the way through this stage, not quite enough to move on to the next stage yet. That doesn't mean we can't start work ahead of time. It's always good to get ahead of the curve if we can. But it turns out that when I open this stage, I can see that the calls to action, this is where we're starting to run into some trouble, okay? I'm in progress trying to identify the inner circle folks, the people on the other side of the aisle here that understand the strategies on their end, who will need to gain relationships with or improve relationships with to win this deal. But most importantly, you can see that the last seller actually left us here with a bit of a no. Right? This is just a straight no. We have not confirmed our supporters, our mentors, who have formal decision criteria in what we call key players. And so that's big for me because I know that we will need the support of our key players, and we'll also need to know exactly what they care about. Sales, after all, is about people and the things that they care about. And if you remember from this webinar series and the Altify Insights webinar, we did already discuss and go over what relationship map and insight map do to that effect. So luckily, again, with Sales Process Manager, we will have inline relationship map and insight map to go along with this. Now, because I'm stuck at a red light here, so to speak, I will want to look at this relationship map to see who are the people that are being referred to on that process and what's going on. We're not going to do a full demo of this interface here, though it is beautiful and awesome. But I can see here that Clara is clearly going to be a potential target here, indicated by our suggested target indicator there. We also have a couple other suggested targets here we might consider. But because of this green line of influence, this is the reason why you can see back in the process stage, you can see that Brian has been called in to help confirm the mentor for the deal, right? And so this was left for me. And my next step was to go ahead and take this to the next level. So we saw on the relationship map that Brian, the reason why Brian was called in here, is the owner, the relationship owner for Mitch, who is the influencer of Clara, who is the key player that we need to discover the formal decision criteria for. Luckily, I have a meeting with Clara next week to introduce myself, and we will be able to discover more than what we already know, which, by the way, is all in one place, beautifully centralized for me as a seller. So going back to the process, I went ahead and asked my executive or my sales leadership for an executive peering help. Her name is Jane, that's my sales leadership, to get on the meeting with myself and Clara and help me make sense of this meeting for Clara, discover what we need to discover, and turn this from a red to green and move on with the deal. So I was able to do that very easily by utilizing our inline actions. Right? So this allows me to create a Salesforce activity, which will show up. In this case, I've assigned it to Jane. I'll go ahead and assign this over to Jane or Brian or whomever, and directly ask for help using activities, perhaps the most direct way to ask for help. And you can see that this has all already been done in the Actions tab, which is also, again, inline, right where you need it, when you need it. At the very top of our open actions, you see Jane Anderson, my manager, has been called into action to help me with Clara, to prove my own value, and to request, specifically my request of Jane is to executive peer on that call so we can confirm those formal decision criteria, which will help us get this deal moving forward. Now, in order to ensure that our sales enablement team and our sales leadership do not have to micromanage or be super aggressive around what they provide, on this interface, we have all sorts of help that can also assist me in understanding what to do next in any given deal, no matter where I am or what kind of deal we're working. Some of those are as simple as tooltips. So on any given question, we can provide tooltips, which your sales enablement and sales ops team, sales leadership team might come together to address and ensure that every single sales process is uniquely valuable in its own nuance. We also have the ability to embed something called quick links, which will help me as a seller, especially a newer seller who's not super familiar, know exactly what I should be seeing at this time, what I might share with the client, or what I might use for my own education. In this case, it's an inline video, which teaches me about the kind of strategy I might utilize in this particular case, in this particular deal at this time. So being in line and being precise as to where these quick links are offered is exactly why they are so useful, as simple as that may seem. And of course, this is for me as a seller dynamic. We don't need to utilize another tool. We don't need to send out email blasts or anything of the sort. As I go through each deal, if my sales enablement team wants to change these out for a PDF or for an email copy I might send to the customer, whatever may have you, this is something that I will have without any change whatsoever on my end, okay? So if we go through the logical steps here, I've gone ahead and requested Jane's help. We've gone ahead and achieved the action here in completing this. We had a great meeting with Clara, and we're able to get the support that we needed for this particular process, right? And so I'll go ahead and turn this from red to green. And we're not quite there yet on the requirement stage, but we're much further along than we were before, with key support in the executive echelon of that particular opportunity. Now, lastly, I think it's important to zoom out again and just reiterate the fact that TeamView is not just a seller use case. As a seller, in that particular case, having cleared out my red bubble, I will probably come back here, rinse and repeat, and start looking into the next indicator, the next yellow, perhaps, bubble. I'll click in and start doing the same thing, using logic, using the enablement that we have in line, and start moving these deals forward. And this is exactly how you make sure that whether you have newer sellers or otherwise, that all of your deals will always be high impact. Every action will be the next one that actually makes sense for your sellers to take, because they will have this zoomed out interface, but so will your sales leadership. And that's where it really becomes fun. Whether you utilize this for a specific projections tool or forecasting tool is up to your team. But the most important part in this particular case is my manager, Jane, can come in here, look at my book, and help me by telling me, giving me comments like here, that I need to review this because it's a very important opportunity with a key account, etc. And so it's not just me who's able to identify these high impact actions, but my whole team, including my sales leadership, and we can collaboratively come together on this interface to identify and push forward opportunities. So this is not a one-player game, this is a team game, and we enable probably best practices for either or, and in all cases. So I want to leave some room for some questions. I know that we will probably have a few about the processes themselves. So Tim, I'd love to hand it back to you, and perhaps we can address some questions.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. That was great. Let's go to questions. And as a reminder to everyone in the call, please do enter your questions in the questions panel. We have a few in already. And I'm going to start with this one, Matt, because I know that this comes up a lot. How does Max Insights work to make suggestions? Does it use AI? How does that work within the platform and sales process specifically?
Yeah, great question. So Max Insights is what helped us see in the view when I was showing you Altify Insights, or a relationship map. We were seeing those orange lightning bolts telling me that Clara was one of our key players who's a suggested target. So beyond being a key player, somebody important that I needed to speak with. That's Max. And Max has best practices out of the box. So if you're new to Altify, it'll actually start working from day one, once it's turned on. But importantly, it's completely configurable. And so if you have a specific sales methodology, or of course, if you have a methodology and you also have specific nuanced sales enablement and sales processes, Max will be tuned and able to recognize the nuance of those situations and give specific guidance about the opportunity itself, as well as the people, the contacts associated with the opportunity. Is it AI? No, it's algorithmic in nature. But we are innovating at the speed of Salesforce here at Altify, and so just wait for Dreamforce. We're getting there.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. I know you mentioned quick links on the demo. Are there any limitations to the kinds of content you can use within those quick links for sales enablement?
Realistically, no, for a couple of reasons. I probably showed you the most difficult one to achieve, which would be an inline video. So inline video and audio is fantastic for training newer sellers, or for providing really important information in a fantastic medium. But also, of course, we can link out to any third-party media. So if you wanted to link out to a Slack channel, or if you wanted to link to a PDF or any other sort of material that your enablement or marketing team might provide, you can do it. And yeah, you can also do, of course, that inline enablement as you saw during the demo. So really no limit to that.
Great. I'm sure you get this question a lot, Matt, but is Altify sales process available outside of Salesforce?
No, Altify Sales Process Manager is completely native Salesforce. And so this is part of our opportunity and account management suite. So we are very focused on helping to make sales velocity super, super fast. And there's a holistic manner in doing that. All of it, though, is built within Salesforce completely. And that is a beautiful thing for a Salesforce team, because it will make sure that your data is always integral and safe, and also enables you to build on top of and within Altify to realistically do whatever you need to do, see what you need to see, and within Altify, you're always going to have real-time data feeding into these dashboards that we've seen today.
Great. Another one for you, and I know both I know you mentioned this too, Matt, on the call, but is there a limit to the amount of different sales processes you can create with Altify sales process? Or is it how granular can we get?
Extremely granular, I think, is the answer.
Yeah.
There is no hard limit as far as I've experienced or heard of, but I know of customers who are utilizing Sales Process Manager to do things so granular as a different process for a different size deal, and then combining that with a different industry that you're selling into, combining that with a different vertical of products that you are selling or line of business you're selling yourself. And if you take that and extrapolate that across 10 different solutions, 5 different industries, and 3 different deal sizes, for example, you can imagine that it is already around 100 different processes. So certainly not impossible to do extremely granular work and ensure that the nuance that is latent and complexity sometimes, which can be difficult for a lot of teams to handle this kind of nuance, is actually handled completely by Altify because of our ability to automate it based on those conditions and beyond.
Great, thank you. Can you adjust and customize existing pre-built sales processes?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually enable, for anybody who's worried about needing administrators to do certain types of work, luckily, our team has built non-administrator front-end settings, if you will. And so you can have a super user, somebody on your sales ops team or even your sales leadership team, with the permission to do so, to access a front-end view and change sales processes as they need to be. So your sales enablement in this case will probably be the key players in that case. They will go ahead and jump into this tab, which will be right in your CRM. No need to go into the setup or anything like that. And for example, change out quick links as they need to be changed, or any other major or minor changes you might have to your processes. It's very easy.
Great. And I know you showed this on the sales process screen and maybe mentioned it at the top. Can you explain how the projected dates are calculated? How does it relate to the CRM close date versus the projected date? I know that it can be confusing for folks sometimes.
Absolutely. So generally, that's the kind of that's algorithmic in nature. So just to start there. In other words, it is based on how the conditions within the actual opportunity itself. So for that opportunity, as we saw, we were at a 45% or so to begin with. It went up to a 49% by the end, because that one very important question was worth 4% of the process, for example. And then time is also a factor when it comes to building these sales processes out. So you can take kind of a basic approach and say, well, every question is equal in weight and value, or you can be very nuanced with it and think a lot about, well, what does this process require? How long do these calls to action generally take? And get as granular as you want in making each process truly, truly helpful in understanding and projecting properly. And so that's how we're doing it today. Again, that's one of those settings that your front-end users, your sales enablement team, your sales ops team can actually access without administrative guidance or assistance.
Great, awesome. I know we're getting kind of toward the end of the questions here. So here's the last one for you, Matt. How do I get started with Altify sales process from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple ways, and maybe you could probably jump in on this one as well.
Yeah.
Um, we have an amazing website which can receive you if you don't already have an account executive with us here at Upland. If you do, please reach out to your account executive or come to our website and check it out from there. And I'd love for you to potentially jump in on that as well, Tim.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have resources for you on upland.com, Altify sales process. We'd love to have a conversation with you. I think that's the really the first step in all of our for all of our products, really, and sales process specifically, because it can be so tailored to your needs. But we'd love to set a meeting with you and have that initial discussion around how we can use sales process to better automate what you have going today and move these deals forward ultimately. And so with that, unless there are any other questions, just let me check the monitor here. Looks like that's all we have for today. So I want to take this time, first off, to thank Matt for walking us through that demo. I think that was a great view into what sales process can do. Of course, we'd love to see you on the next webinar. We should be having one here shortly. So we'd love to see you all again, and thank you all for your time and questions.
Thanks, Tim, and thank you everybody for coming.